welcome to the Light Gate on this beautiful 28th day in April. We're about to close out the month and go into May. Big deal. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook, we are on Roku, we are on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. We have some really interesting people to be with us tonight. I'm very excited about it. You know who they are. So I'm just going to slide it on over to Preston. Here you go. Okay. Oh, wait, one more thing. Thank you, Carnation. I'm so excited. I forgot. We love you. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, we do. Much appreciated. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on episode 105 of The Light Gate. Happy Monday. So glad you all could join us. I'm pretty excited about our guests tonight. James Goodall and Michael Schratt. Michael is running a little bit late, but he says he should be here. We will see. At any rate, it's going to be an awesome show. And I'm very excited to see you all here. I am, of course, your host, Preston Dennett, author, researcher, and experiencer. And my lovely co-host is Dolly Safran, also an experiencer extraordinaire, actually. I'm doing the transcriptions for the interviews for Symmetry, the sequel. And it's very cool. It's just absolutely awesome. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. But let's see who we have here in chat, because I always like to say hello to you folks in chat. Because of you, we do this show. We have so much fun. And it's always awesome to see all you familiar faces. And it looks like we have Michael Kennedy first in line. Hi, Michael. Hope you're doing well. Lovely to see you here. We have Teresa Levine.
Hey, Teresa.
And we have Renee and the emojis.
I hope your shoulder is getting better. Yeah.
That's a band, Renee and the Emojis.
Yes, very much so.
We have Janie Mashburn saying hello to everyone. Dolly and Preston.
Hi.
Renee says, I've talked to James Goodall before. Very cool.
My goodness, very cool. I bet he's so excited.
And look at that, Star Orchid. Thanks for the replays. It's so much better to catch you guys live. Thank you, Star Orchid. We appreciate that so much. Your generosity is absolutely appreciated. We love you for it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
We have Jay Kirshenman. Hello from Virginia.
Hi, Jay.
I also want to give a shout out to Amanita. She can never make the live. She's in England. It's just too late. But you always catch us on the replay. So hi, Amanita. Hope you're doing well. Happy Saturday morning.
Yes.
We have Peak. Happy Lightgate Monday.
Hey, Peak.
And Louise, greetings from New Jersey. You guys are our regulars. We love you so much. Namaste. Thank you, namaste. I don't know what to say except thank you.
So much.
We have our endless gratitude and love and appreciation. We think you're just awesome. And the lovely
Heidi
Hansen. Look at that. Amazing. Heidi's been on the show twice. Check out her books. She's just one of those amazing lights in this world. Has had so many experiences. Not a lot of people out there with her level of awareness and absolute love and wisdom.
Not to mention she has a book out now.
Yes, she's got more than one book.
Check it out. That's right.
Quite a few.
Books. Look her up on Amazon. That's right.
And they're awesome. They're on my bookshelves behind me. We love you, Heidi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Sharice Bazila.
Basila.
Basila?
Basila.
Bazila.
Basila.
All right.
Sharice
We'll get it right one of these times, Sharice, or I will. We have Dan Cheney. Thanks for the invite. Oh, Dan.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. We have Patsy Feutster. She wrote a song for you, Dolly.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Nifty.
Hello, Dolly.
Yeah. That one I've heard a billion times. Yeah.
And we have Raul Melendez. Raul.
Thank you very
much.
much.
So much. I'm going to speed through these because I really want to get James Goodall on, and hopefully Michael shortly later. We have the indescribable Aquaman.
Oh, I love it. Yay.
Very cool. We have Groucho Trout. We have Sonny Burnett, made it just in time.
Yes.
We have Kaj Vardinghus all the way from Brazil.
Oh, Brazil. Yeah.
Brazil's huge. They're actually 1 hour ahead of us on the far east side. I'm sure they have multiple time zones. I don't know.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Olivia, hello. We've got
Hi,
Kaleidoscope Eyes from
Hello,
Knoxville,
Kaleidoscope
Tennessee.
Eyes. Yeah.
I was listening to Preston's channel from 4 years ago. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I've been
Awesome.
around. I have.
Yep.
We have Becky Duncan. Yay.
Hello.
We have Pedro Ferreira. We
Hello,
have
Pedro.
another Becky Sloan. 2 Beckys.
Cool.
How
Very
about that? We have Terrence Willis from New York City.
Nice. Yep.
We have stargazers. We
Hello,
have
Pedro.
Ayantra.
Entra. Yeah. Finish. Finish? Maybe. I think so.
I don't
Maybe.
know.
By the spelling.
Starnar Björk. All the way from Norway.
Yeah.
Björk.
Björk. Not Björk. Okay.
We have Kamikaze Kittens. Aw. I like that.
Yeah, I do too. I had kamikaze kittens once.
Okay. Oh, no, house sitting kittens. Kamikaze. I don't know why I stuck that in there. Sorry, kamikaze.
That's cool. He's
See the kittens
flipping around all over the place. Yeah.
We have, in my opinion, we have Samantha Shaw, and oh my gosh, you guys, Janie Mashburn.
Thank you, Janie. Thank you.
Very, very nice of you. And in my opinion, wow, you guys, much gratitude, much love to both of you. So kind.
Thank you.
We have Tanya Martinez. Thank you for joining us.
Good, Tanya.
Tanya from Kentucky. I did the hometown episode on her hometown, so that was very cool. Pedro Ferreira, also from Brazil. Let's see. We have Ruben Levi Schneiderman. When will you be on Rogan?
The name on the thing. I can't see to pronounce it probably. Ruben Levi.
Oh,
there you go.
Ruben Levi Schneiderman.
Snazderman.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get on Rogan.
Levi. Yeah.
I think if I get enough recommendations, that's the way to do it, because they really don't, get you on if you ask. You have to be recommended. So yeah.
I want to tell you something, Ruben. I'm Turkish. Okay, my name is Safran, but our family escaped there and went to Russia. So it's Safranskaya. They made it. Went to Poland and it became Safransky. Okay, and they came back to America, and what did they do? They went right back to Safran. So yeah, very cool. Very cool.
We have Yvonne Duquette.
Hello, Yvonne.
Tanya, el mejor ufólogo. Oh,
there you go. You got that. Yeah, you go with this Espanol. Yeah.
Ruben, love from Israel.
Hi, Israel. Thank you.
Cool.
Shalom.
We reach all over the world. Desert Dolphin, hey buddy, love your videos. Oh, thank you. I work so hard at them.
He does.
Steiner Björk says, correct, Dolly. Steiner Birch is my Americanized name.
There you go. See? That's what happens. You come here and you get Americanized. That's right.
We got Brenda Wheeling. We have My Bud. We have a lot of people here tonight. John P. Adventures and more. But it's time for us to get to our guests, which of course is Michael Schratt and James Goodall. Michael Schratt, again, isn't here yet, but for those of you who haven't seen our previous shows with him, check him out. He's a frequent flyer on our show. We absolutely adore him. There's no one out there doing what he does. He's a private pilot, a military aerospace historian, longtime researcher, lecturer, draftsman, and an expert on classified black projects and UFO crash retrievals. He's the author of Dark Files, a Pictorial History of Lost, Forgotten, and Obscure UFO Encounters. He's been all over the place, so hopefully he'll make it shortly. But James C. Goodall has also been on the show at least twice. So this will be his third appearance. He's a published author with no less than 27 books in print. Man after my own heart. He's a former docent at Kitt Peak National Observatory, former associate curator at Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum, former restoration manager on the MOF's de Havilland Comet Mk4C at the Museum of Flight, and a former master sergeant at the United States Air Force. How about that?
That's cool.
He studied business marketing at University of Minnesota and is a recognized authority both on low observable aircraft such as the F-117, the B-2A, the Lockheed Twins F-22 and F-35, and the Lockheed Skunk Works family of Blackbirds, and the U.S. Navy's fleet of modern-day fast attack and ballistic missile submarines.
Nice.
He has been photographing and writing about spooky military aircraft, naval ships, and submarines for the past 35 years. His latest book is 75 Years of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and that was published just a couple of years ago by Osprey in 2021. Now, before I bring him on, I do want to give a message of condolence to our dear friend, Earl Gray,
Yes.
UFO researcher and experiencer, former guest on our show, a lovely man who passed away just a few days ago.
Saturday. Yeah.
So wish him peace on his journey into the higher planes. I'm sure he's having a wonderful time, but boy, it's never easy. Condolences to his family, his friends.
Children. That's right. Our deepest felt condolences, and anything you need, just ask.
Yes, we love you all very much. Earl was a dear friend of ours. I've known him for years and years and years. So yeah, have a bit of a heavy heart tonight over that, but I do know he's having a good time because I've been there on the other side and it's awesome.
Yep.
All right, so now let's just bring on our esteemed guest, James Goodall.
Hi there, Preston, Dolly. Delighted to be here. Michael is hung up. He should be on in a few minutes, I would think. He went back to Chicago. That's where his mom is, and he's temporarily relocated himself to Albuquerque because for the next 3 to 6 months or longer, he's going to be at the UFO. I guess it's a media warehouse, and he's going to scan everything, and it'll be available. I think it'll be available to the general public, and you can scan by title. It's a PDF. He's scanning everything in PDF.
That's
So wonderful.
He did the same thing with Dr. Greer and all his stuff, all Greer stuff, and all his Michael stuff. And he's been at Roswell. He's scanned everything there. So what he's going to end up with is what he already has is the absolute largest collection of UFO material, probably with the exception of the CIA. You probably have more.
Yeah, which is not really accessible to
right. Right, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. And you were talking about losing people. I mean, I just turned 80 years old, and most of my friends were older than me, and I on a regular, at least once a week, I get an announcement of somebody that I know, not necessarily someone, a close family member, but someone I've interacted with over the many decades, and they're all dropping like flies. I just got off a road trip. I went back to Minnesota in middle of April, actually earlier April. I drove out there. I was packing too much stuff to want to risk it to have luggage get lost. And I was there for an incredible honor. I was inducted into the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame.
Nice.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, one of the more important people to be a member of the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame is Charles Lindbergh. He's from Little Falls, Minnesota.
Yep.
And what cracked me up, of the 6 members of the Minnesota Air National Guard that are in the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame, they're all generals. And I'm a master sergeant. So, and the other thing, of the 7 inductees on April 12th, I'm the only one who doesn't have a pilot's license. Everybody said, well, why don't you have one? I said, when I had the money, I didn't have the time. And when I had the time, I didn't have the money. So at 80 years old, I probably, I don't want to tempt fate. So I'm going to stay on the ground. I've been out in the desert with little red dots on my chest. So that doesn't faze me. But, and there's something about an airplane. I love them. I love the smell of burnt nav gas.
Yeah.
And JP4, JP8, JP7. And it's just, I love it. Today, they're starting to move the Martin Mars that landed on, was it Pleasant Lake? I think it is. It's up in north central part of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Had a big enough ramp that they could pull the Martin Mars up there. That's a big airplane. I've been in it. I was on it in Schratt Lake in Port Alberni, British Columbia, on Vancouver Island here in 2005. Gary Glass, who was the general manager there, took me out in the crew boat. We circled around the Philippine Mars. We're out there on the lake when the Hawaii Mars was doing touch and goes.
Oh my God! What's the wingspan on that thing?
I think it's like 180 feet.
Yeah, it's ginormous.
It's big.
Yeah.
It's big. So it's just a beautiful airplane. And it was supposed to go initially to the Naval Air Museum in Pensacola.
Yeah.
And they had it, they painted it up in Navy markings versus, the Colson Timber Company, I think it is. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous.
What's your favorite plane, out of curiosity?
It's black, seats one pilot, flies as high as 92,500 feet at above Mach 3.
Hmm.
It's called the A-12 Oxcart.
Right.
I am blessed to have been the caretaker of one for 15 years. And it was the 8th production Blackbird, number 128. I scrounged it. Ben Rich and we called or talked to each other about once a quarter for 20 plus years.
Wow.
And in August of 89, Ben calls me at home. He said, Jim, I have it. He wasn't going to say the horse's rear, but he stopped for a second. He said, I have it from the horse's mouth that the Blackbirds aren't going to make it through Congress. And if anyone could scrounge one, it's you. So I said, I'm taking up the challenge. So I immediately jumped in my car, drove to the guard base. This is before cell phones. So if you make a long distance call during the day, it could be really pricey.
Right.
And I called the 108th Military Airlift Wing there up on the Hudson in New York. And I called him up. The secretary answered, and I said, "Yes, ma'am. This is Sergeant Goodall with the 133rd. That would be the 133rd Airlift Wing in Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport." He says, "Is the general available?" So just Miss Sarge, I'll put you through. So General Weaver answers the phone. He said, "Sarge, what can I do for you?" And I said, "General, I have a proposition." He said, "Shoot, what is it?" He said, "How would the New York Air Guard like to move the world's fastest airplane in a couple of your C-5s?" And he was dead silent for about 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Do you mean the Blackbird?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "When you're ready, you call Will Hall." So I went from there. I went over to meet with Major General Al Schwab, who was the director of the Minnesota Air Guard Museum. And I said, General Schwab, I'm working to get a Blackbird for our museum. And he starts laughing at me. And he said, "General, do me a favor. Rather than laugh at me, why don't you give me the opportunity to fail?" "All right, smarty, how are you going to get it here?" So I already got that covered. And he looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I talked to General Weaver at the New York Air Guard. And when we're ready to move the airplane, if we get it," he said, "you call Will Hall." So that was the beginning of it. And then we also, and General Schwab helped me with this, we contacted the entire Minnesota congressional delegation 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans that have probably never agreed on anything before or since to sign off on that we should get a Blackbird. I wanted an A-12. I didn't want an SR-7. I just wanted an A-12. And lo and behold, the paperwork came through, and we were given article number 128, which is serial number 606931. And it is the 5th operational Blackbird. And it was one of the designated ones that was going to go to Kadena to overfly North Vietnam and North Korea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was also the envelope expansion airplane. So when we got the paperwork that it was ours, I called up the Skunk Works and I talked. I think it was Lanny Jenkins. I think he was the general manager there at Lockheed, which was Site 10. It wasn't the Skunk Works yet, but it was the Skunk Works it was in the process of moving everything over. And I headed out there. I told them I was on my way, and I go up into the security desk there at Air Force Plant 42 in Palmdale. And now that's outside of the fence line. And there was nobody at the counter, but I could hear people behind the wall, and the door was open. And I hit the buzzer, and it says, "Who's there?" I said, "Jim Goodall." Dead silence. The Jim Goodall? I said, "Well, there's 5 of us. 2 of them are dead. Myself, my son, and my grandson, my dad and my grandfather, but I'm probably the one you're referring to." And Glenna Farley walks around the corner, and she looks at me. She says, "You're not the 800-pound gorilla you've been made out to be."
Ooh.
And I just sort of cracked. She says, I've been in security at the Skunk Works for 21 years. I heard your name my first week of employment at the Skunk Works. And I've heard your name mentioned in briefings about once a quarter for the last 20 plus years. I said, well, probably my name is being brought up on a weekly security briefing because at least once a quarter I talk with Ben Rich. And when, he would have to put in the log that, he spoke with Jim Goodall for 45 minutes or an hour and 10 or 2 minutes or whatever. So that's why, and she says, he said, "You don't look like anything I thought you would look like." So I was there to see, Lanny, and he picked me out.
I think that's a compliment.
Yeah, I think so too. So when we were, and the other funny thing about acquiring the airplane is just before we were ready to go out to Palmdale in a C-130, I had 13 guys plus myself, and we were going to dismantle the airplane. We had about 18,000 pounds of equipment. I had convinced the Ramada Inn in Palmdale to put 36 of us up for nothing. Well, it was owned by Bob. It was owned by Bob Gilliland, so it made that was a real easy push since he was the first guy to fly the SR.
Wow.
And then Pontiac Motor Division of General Motors, of course, Pontiac doesn't exist anymore. They supplied us with 3 black Pontiac transports to haul people around. And the Dayton Hudson Corporation and my dear friend Jack Mugen, who now lives in Gainesville, he was the director of visual media. And he hired a professional documentary film crew to come to Palmdale and videotape they'd taken apart and the loading of our airplane into a C-5. We only had 1.5 inches of clearance when we rolled it in, and that was on the floorboard. And I'd measured the C-5 so many times to make sure that we weren't going to screw up.
Yeah.
And I also knew that if for some reason, because every airplane's a little bit different, nothing is exactly the same. If the floor rails were a little bit narrower, if necessary, we can come along between and torque the gear in. We had to take the outer wheels off and the brake assembly, for it to fit. And the fun part, that was October 27th, 1991. And we left there and we flew to Travis. They didn't have fuel at Palmdale, or they had fuel, but they didn't have fuel for us. So we headed up to Travis. We spent the night. Next morning, we get up early, have breakfast, reload the airplane. No, we had a whole parade of people coming through at the base, wanted to see what was inside the C5, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I bet.
And then we took off. We're heading to Minneapolis. Oops.
Excuse me.
That's right. That happens to me too, so don't worry about it. So we're about 45 minutes out of Travis, and the Chief Master Sergeant Loadmaster was heading down in the cargo bay. I said, well, can I go with you? He said, well, normally that would be a no, but since this is your project and it's your airplane, come on down. So I went down, I climbed up in the landing gear, climbed up on the chines, and walked along the chines where the ribs were, which I've done many times. I had a wheel chock in the canopy. It's a heavy canopy, and the counterbalance was out of nitrogen. We had filled it up when we were working on it, taking it apart, but then it leaked, so it needs new seal.
Oh yeah.
And so I opened it up. I already had a 5-gallon bucket in there with a cushion. I got inside, closed the canopy, and I'm in there for about 45 minutes, just going zooms. I'm just looking around. I am just like a 2-year-old kid that was given a free pass in the candy store.
Yeah.
And after about 45 minutes, there was a wrap on the bottom. I opened the canopy. Chief said, hey, we got to go back up. I said, okay. So I come out and go back up. And we're just taking the flight to Minnesota. Just as we start our descent, we're at 33,000 feet. Just as starting our descent, the chief came up and he said, the boss said you could be in the cockpit when we land. I thought he meant the cockpit of the C5.
No, he meant the cockpit. Oh my!
Of the A-12.
Oh,
so I went down. I got in. It probably is not to regulation to do something like that, but this was a special occasion. So I go down. I'm in the cockpit of the A-12, and we land. And when it comes out of the C5, I'm still in the cockpit. Wow. And you couldn't have slapped the grin off my face with a baseball bat with nails sticking out of it. It was just, it was the most fun that a guy like me could ever have, short of going into space. I mean, I was smiling for over a year after that. So the next day, I called Ben Rich. He's still the president of the Skunk Works, he hadn't retired yet. And I said, Ben, I think I have a record that no one else can touch when it comes to the Blackbird. I said, what's that? He said, I'm the only person on the planet to have been in the cockpit of a Blackbird at 33,000 feet at Mach 0.72 inside another airplane. And I landed it too. And Ben just started laughing. He said, I was laughing so hard. He said, I almost wet myself.
They should have given you a certificate. I'm not.
Well, he was going to. He was going to give me a Mach 3 minus.
Right.
Now I have some blank Mach 3 certificates.
Okay.
And I'm going to put my name. I'm going to
put
my name in that.
By God.
Yeah. I can fake Ben's signature. I'll pull it off of somewhere. So.
That's.
That was just the highlight of that. The month of October 1991, and it was the only A-12 of the 9 that are in existence. It's the only one that was deemed an operational bird. 937 was one of the Kadena birds, and so was 927. So those.
Did you say it flew over Korea?
It flew over North Korea 3 times.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah. I have a friend who was a helicopter pilot during those times on the DMZ. He's very good at what he did. And I'm just wondering, I'm going to have to ask him, did you ever see that thing go overhead, or did you hear about it or whatever?
It would have been between May 67 and June 68.
Okay.
And they were only at Kadena for a year, but the A-12 gave birth to the SR-71. And the A-12 flew higher and a little bit faster because it's about 4,000 to 5,000 pounds lighter, depending on the mission. And it's a little bit more aerodynamically sleek than the SR-71. And the SR-71's heavier because they put a second cockpit in. Yeah, and they beefed up the airframe, which affected the performance of the not weight wise, but the performance of the airplane.
Yeah.
What the at speed and altitude, the fuel just sits on the skin, and it's used as a heat sink, and it's used to cool down the cockpit.
Right.
They take the 1,200 degree air off. I think it's a 9th stage. I think it is. And then it goes through 3 heat exchangers, and it comes into the cockpit at 30 degrees.
Wow. See, that's totally cool. Most people don't understand that the higher you go and you're flying at speed, that high, the outside of because of the friction with the wind, the air is heating that fuselage up. They don't associate that way. They just think it's bloody cold, and it's not how it works. And they have to cool itself. So that's really cool.
At Mach 3.2 for 21 minutes, the airframe is fully soaked, which makes the average overall temperature for the entire airframe from the pitot tube to the fuel dump at 520 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's hot, yeah.
And the most amazing part, the Pratt & Whitney engine J58 is a fascinating piece of work because it was developed as a generic Navy engine. If you know your nomenclatures in the 50s and 60s, anything that ended in an even number was developed and paid for by the Navy. Anything ended in a odd number was developed for the Air Force. So here they had an engine when Kelly got the contract to design and build the A-12. They needed a motor that could push it that way, and he sat down with the guys at Pratt & Whitney. And Kelly liked all the numbers on the J75, and he reviewed everything on the Navy version of the J58. And they had brainstorming sessions. They made a bunch of modifications. They put the 6 bypass tubes on it so it can turn into, in essence, a turbo ramjet. But probably the most amazing part of Blackbird or breathing. From the lip of the inlet, now you're at 85,000 feet. You're moving at 32 to 3,400 feet a second. The air that hits the face of the inlet is at minus 70, plus or minus. In 20 feet, it's elevated 900 degrees.
Holy smokes.
Isn't that amazing?
And it's slowed down from triple sonic to subsonic, and it hits the face of the engine. First stage air temperature is 1,200 degrees.
Yep.
As it goes through the engine, it goes through the compressor, then it goes into it's a full-time afterburner. The heat in the middle of that afterburner is 3,200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Did they ever produce plasma around them? When they were doing that at that temperature?
No.
Because, man, those are plasma temperatures. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, no, and they had to use waspalloy for the material for the afterburner section.
Oh yeah.
And waspalloy was made by Bulova Watch Company, and you can get waspalloy in sheets about this big.
Wow.
Because it was for watches.
Yeah.
What is it made out of? What did you call it?
It is a high temperature, probably a high iron based nickel.
All right.
Material. Very, very, it can withstand tremendous heat.
Yeah, without melting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
and there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, the blackbirds, they grow a foot, they grow 6, and they go, And so I finally, I knew they didn't grow that much, but I sat down with, I can't remember, Tory Larson. He was the metallurgist for the Skunk Works. I think he was the senior metallurgist. And I sat down with him in his hangar one day, and I said, "Okay, Tory, everybody's asked the question, and if anybody has an answer, it's you." They said, "How much does the Blackbird grow?" Right now, we'll use the SR-71 as a constant. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
He said the type of titanium, which is B210 something else. He pulled out his metals Bible that gives the coefficient of expansion for everything, probably from mud to diamonds, who knows.
Right.
And he starts doing his calculation, based on it at 22 minutes at full soak, standard day taken off, standard day at altitude. He's going through, he has his engineer's calculator, gets all done, and he said the Blackbird grows on average after 22 minutes at Mach 3.2 at 1.92 inches. But it grows in all dimensions.
Right.
You're talking about a 107-foot airplane.
Right.
So 2 inches is not a lot. He said, the Pratt & Whitney J58, it grows 6 inches in length and 2.5 inches in diameter. And the most critical part of the flight envelope is not takeoff, not cruise, it's descent, because you have to cool the outer casing at the same rate as you're cooling the inner workings.
Right.
And they, I theorized that Jack Weeks lost an A-12 out of Kadena. He was out the far Western Pacific. They just changed an engine. And what they didn't note, and it was an administrative screw up.
Oh, no.
And he had to do a flight test, because they did an engine change. That one engine had fixed inlet guide vanes, and the other engine had adjustable inlet guide vanes. And extending from altitude, when he was going through about 73,000 feet, birdwatch, which was a
big deal,
rudimentary telemetry system. I think it had 24 channels.
Yeah.
So if you got one, that means the canopy left, you get a 2, the ejection seat, or whatever that number was. And they got a spike in the compressor inlet temperature. It went red line. And all of a sudden we lost everything. So what they theorized as he was descending, one of the 2 engines, he was flying the profile for one of the engines when he should have been aware of the fact that they were different motors, and the engine decided to grenade itself in descent. And they never even found an oil slick. But it was of the 50-man Blackbirds, it crashed 20 of them. And there was only 4 fatalities. That was really amazing.
That is amazing. Wow.
Ray Torek drowned when he ejected out of the M21 after a midair collision with the drone. Bill Park made it okay. Jack Weeks was in that area, which was in that one that disintegrated on the far Western Pacific. We have Bill Weaver and Jim Zare. Jim Zare broke his neck ejecting when the airplane was breaking up. And there's a 4th one, but
yikes! My
my mind has gone blank for right now. It's just I have a million things in this head going, and sometimes it's hard to. And there's things I can't. It has nothing to do with UFOs, nothing to do with airplanes, but I'm doing some stuff now that I can't talk about. That's really exciting if it in fact happens. So if I sort of go off on a tangent or by accident, you know why.
Okay.
But it's I'm just blessed to know and be I would say not buddies or friends, but mutual respect with Ben Rich. And I've met Kelly Johnson, Ben Rich, Jack Gordon, Sherm Mullen, Rob Weiss, and Jeff Babion. Jeff Babion was the vice president general manager when I went to the Skunk Works in June 3rd of 21 to do a book signing. And he told me, he says, I have 2 books in my man cave that no one's allowed to touch. I said, what's that? He said, it's your Blackbird book from Schaffer Publishing and your 75 years at Lockheed Skunk Works from Osprey.
Aww.
And I mean,
messed up.
Sherm Mullen said that Lockheed should hire me to do their PR. They just I do picture books, and people say, and the Skunk Works books is 400 384 pages. 384 pages. It's 5.5 pounds. And I covered 43 Skunk Works programs. There are probably 43 that I don't know about, but I covered 43. And it's just it's a labor of love. But I've always been bought squadron signal books. I build model airplanes, and anytime I got a book like a squadron signal in action, you go through. You don't read the text. You know everything there is to know about it when it's been printed. But there's new photos. You're going through. You read the photo captions. You look at all the photos, and it also tells the story. So I decided when I did my first hardbound book, I did it on the B-2 stealth bomber. I flew the simulator at Whiteman. I think I'm the only guy in my neighborhood to have flown the B-2 simulator, the real one.
Wow.
I even linked up with a KC-135R, and the instructor pilot sitting on the right seat. He said, "I flew heavies. I flew heavies for 6 years out of McGuire, and I had a hell of a time hooking up the B-2 to the tanker because you don't have any verticals, so you're sliding back and forth, and you have to adjust. You have to correct that with the split ailerons. And it only took me I think 2 or 3 tries, and I is in the hookup position. This is a simulator, so it's not real.
Right.
But one of the fun things is after we did all this other stuff, he said, "We're going to do a touch and go." So it said, "Fine." So I said, "Put the ball, the glide slope, follow down."
Yep.
We're about 18 miles out, and I'm coming down, and George up in the control room decides he's going to drop. I think it was 10 megaton hydrogen bombs around.
Oh God!
But the flash, the screen goes black because if you're in a nuclear environment, you wear it looks like the Star Wars stormtrooper face mask, and you know the guy who designed it or the crew that designed it. It was influenced by Star Wars. Because immediately, I mean, in a nanosecond, it turns opaque just to keep from burning your back of your eyes out. And as it starts clearing up, I see all these mushroom clouds, and we pulled away. We're bouncing all over the sky. So I asked the IP. I said, "Hey, can I drop one?" He said, "No, that's a classified system. But if you would drop it, where would it be?" And I said, 1,600. He says, "Stop right there." Said, "This place is, all our conversations are monitored."
Oh.
So it would be 1,600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but this is 2015.
Jim.
Yeah.
You've flown. If you've been in a simulator, you can fly.
Oh, I know. Yes. I mean, I've flown the 777 simulator. I flew the C-130 simulator.
You can get in one today and fly it. You bet you could. If you can fly one there, you can fly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You've been trained.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just it's been such a fun trip. This thing started my passion started 75 years ago. When I saw coming over the Coast Mountains in San Jose, it's 1950, 51, 24 Convair B-36s.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
They had been in Guam. This is the Korean War time. They'd been in Guam with a show of power. They had 41 of them at Guam, but they could only get 24 of them in the air. They usually shut off at least one R-40-360 somewhere on the trip, but they can fly 60 hours unrefueled. The joke of the B-36 community was they only landed when the crew had to re-enlist.
That's funny.
A typical B-36 could have as many as 27 crew members.
Yeah.
And,
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
They built them for long hauls. That's so cool. That is so cool.
I want to pop up a question from Michael Kennedy. It's an open-ended question, so
sure.
You could talk about this for a while, I think. He's asking, can you please speak on what you can about Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, and any other large companies, and of the evidence you can provide on their exotic tech and its prodigy? I mean, that's a mouthful. But.
Well, I mean, basically, I don't hold anything back. And people say, well, what do you keep them to yourself? I said, absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
At my age, I could walk out, go to the bathroom, and die in the toilet of natural causes. And
I mean, there's got to be some really exotic technology that.
why, as right after we had the book signing, Jeff Babion said, I'm going to take you over to Site 2, where they're rebuilding U2 099. It had a fire or something like that, but they need the U2, so they were actually remanufacturing it. So I'm in the back of the limousine with the vice president, general manager of the Skunk Works, and we're heading over there. I looked Jeff right in the eye, and I said, "How much UFO alien technology is being utilized in Skunk Works projects?" And I mean, it didn't faze him. He said, I have no knowledge of UFO materials or technology being utilized in Skunk Works program. But then he said, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen before I got here. He said, my job is not look to the past. That's what we have people like you to do. My job is to look to the future. I said, Lockheed has a zero no comment on questions on UFOs or alien technology. I said, but personally, since I can't imagine in this big, huge universe that we're the only ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that was a very, very nice. It was a wonderful opportunity, and everybody there was very, very gracious. And I had myself a picture. I'm holding this, the pewter skunk. I'm the only non-Skunk Works person. I'll go get it and show it to you. That has been received this, and I'm going to go get it. It's my bookshelf's right there.
Okay. Cool.
That's
This is an award.
Uh,
I think he definitely should be given a promotion to general.
Yeah.
And I had a friend of mine, Steve Justice, who was a number 3 guy at the Skunk Works. He said, you have no idea what an honor that is. He said, you're the only non-Skunk Works person ever to get one. And it's a pewter skunk.
Yep. That's
And
it.
I don't know if you can read it.
No. Got to
Okay.
read it to us. Yeah.
And the thing came apart on me. He said, presented to James Goodall, great American aviation enthusiast, author. Thank you for your lifetime of dedication and support of Skunk Works products. Signed, Jeff Babion, Vice President, General Manager of the Advanced Development Programs, Skunk Works.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm just tickled. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. That's totally awesome.
And it's heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, this
It looks
thing weighs
heavy.
a ton.
Really amazing.
I've always lived in the South, the deep South there up in, Wisconsin, the eastern seaboard and up toward Wisconsin. So there aren't too many moments that I've gotten to see anything from that group. Okay. I've seen from other groups, but not that group.
Yeah.
So once, and they were flying it. I can't tell you everything. I'm going to generalize here, or I will break an NDA, but I saw something come in one night and it dropped my jaw literally to the ground. And I couldn't move, talk, or nothing. I was just fixated on it. And I thought, wow, oh my God. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm actually seeing something that I'm probably not supposed to see. And I'm standing here like an idiot watching. And sure enough, I got debriefed and everything. And I was told, no, never. As long as you live, no. And
yeah, as long as you live stuff. I mean, that's a bunch of garbage because the technology is going to change if you live long enough.
Yeah, well, I'm going to live long enough to be able to blurt that one out.
Yeah,
big.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, I sat down with a former CIA guy here earlier this week, and he worked around spooky airplanes and non-human made craft.
Mm-hmm.
Craft articles not from this earth, I guess you may call it that. And he said, there's 90% of what you see or it's being seen by people. And I'm outside every night. I'm in Tucson. We have Tucson is a center for the Dark Sky Initiative.
Right.
We keep lights down, light pointing down, not up.
Right.
So when I go in my backyard and the perimeter lights are turned off, it is dark.
Yeah.
And you can see the Milky Way. I mean, once your eyes adjust, it's beautiful. And I'm out there almost every night with my dog. We just go out there and just sort of sit and watch the world go by.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anything I couldn't explain. And it drives me nuts. I mean, Karen Hill, who's the MUFON head here in Tucson, she shot a triangle. I mean, it wasn't fuzzy. I mean, it was defined with the three power lights on the corners or the tips, just north of downtown Tucson. And I was outside that night, and I'm looking all the time. A lot of people, I know 99% of the world never looks up.
True.
I'm the guy who's always looking up, and I trip and fall and scrape my knees, rip my arm up and stuff like that. So the stuff is out there. And I wonder where the hell Michael is.
Yeah, I know. I will say something to y'all. One of the things that is important to realize is that a lot of this stuff that people do see is ours.
Yeah.
Right. And it's most of it. And right now, for the last couple of years, going on 3 years now, ETs are really not here, and for reasons. And it is amazing that everybody is becoming more aware now. It's almost like a you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't situation for everybody. And I wish that they could have more information. That's what I hope for. Here is Michael. I'm bringing him in.
Oh, good.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey. Welcome, Michael. Yes.
Drop your camera down because we can see the ceiling. There we go. Now we just have your green screen.
Good?
Yes. Better.
Okay.
How you doing, Michael?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
So, yeah.
Glad to join you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm glad we can hear people in the background, and we really don't care, just so you know.
Yeah, they'll be departing soon. So
It's all right.
So Jim, you talked to the CIA guy. Did he have any amazing things to share?
Well, other than that, he said that 90% of what people see are alien reproduction vehicles.
there you go.
Absolutely. Yep.
And
You've been seeing it for a while, Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just been killing time for the last 50 minutes. So
We've been hearing some wonderful, beautiful things come from Jim.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But Michael's one of my favorite people. No one does it better than Michael.
That's only because of you, Jim. Only because of you.
Yeah. You have. I admire what you do. I thoroughly enjoy just listening to you. Take something apart, and the thing I love about Michael, he doesn't interject his opinion like almost everybody else has an opinion on this. He's like Sergeant Friday at Dragnet. It's just the facts, only the
Just
facts.
the facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And he has all the supporting documents to back up what his presentation. So Michael's a one of a kind. I am honored and delighted to call him my friend, and he's a very dear friend.
You too, Jim. You too.
Yeah, and we've been friends for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long time before I saw him, met him face to face, and then turned out he was in Oro Valley.
That's right.
Yeah, he came over to the house, and I, we'll always be friends. So, and he will always, Michael will always be welcome in my house,
That's so
no matter where I live. Now, if I end up moving back to Hawaii someday, that you'd have to sleep on the floor or on the couch if I even have one. So
That's what sleeping bags are for. That's right.
Right. So we're going to go from here. We have we didn't finish our presentation. Was it a month and a half ago, 2 months ago?
Correct. I sort of been sitting on pins and needles about it, literally, because I know that you were getting to the good stuff, and we didn't quite get there. And I was like, oh dang, too bad.
And we may have to do a third session to finish up.
I was going to say.
Yeah, that's
Well, you guys,
I mean, I'm an easy participant, and yeah, that would be up to Michael. So,
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
So should we try to share screen here?
Yes, Preston, go for it.
All right, let me see if I can do this here. Okay. And I'm going to go here. All right. Open this up. Okay. Back to you guys.
Okay, hold on. I'm about to give it to you. Hold on. And
Yep, no
You
problem.
should have the ability. Yeah.
share screen.
Yep.
There you go. Okay.
Present, share screen.
Yep.
Share screen. Go to window here. Share. Okay.
I see.
You guys are seeing this, right?
Yeah. Well, I see it in the lower window here. Let me add it to the stage.
Okay. Now, what I want to do now is drop down to where we left off, and I know exactly where we left off. We left off right here. Slideshow from current slide. So this is where we left off.
okay.
And you guys are seeing this, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes, we are.
Okay, good.
AIA, 8th Aerospace Sciences
Yes.
Meeting. Yep.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so I want to start here. Now, we've all heard about the commercial airliners, okay? 747, 727, 737. First flight of the 747 was back in 1969. That was 56 years ago.
I was
And-
there.
You were there.
Yep.
Wow.
I was one.
Great. As you know, we are not flying any faster now
No.
than we were back in 1969. We're not flying any faster now. Now, take a look at the date of this. This is January 22nd through the 24th, 1968. Aerodynamics and supersonic flow. I'm not going to get too involved in this, but let me go to the second page here. I'm going to zoom in on the abstract. I'm not going to read all of this, but I think the abstract is important here. The research presented in this paper pertains to the effects of electrostatic fields in a charged flow of fluid about a body. The phenomenon was studied with wind tunnel tests and by hydraulic analogy tests. The results indicate that electrostatic forces can alter the flow pattern of a fluid, and it may be possible to attenuate the sonic boom. In addition, if the sonic boom is decreased, there may also be a wave drag reduction. So, Jim, what they're talking about here, in essence, is taking out the sonic boom footprint back in 1968.
That's what the X-59 is. They're still playing. They're still trying to figure that out.
Did you change the slide, by the way? Because we're still looking at the.
Yes, I changed the slide. Yes, I changed the
No,
slide.
It's not changing for us.
It didn't index down. No.
Yeah.
How do we get that to do that?
You click on it. You click on it.
Okay, so I
Next
just
slide
moved.
down.
I just moved to the next slide,
Huh.
but
We
it
had this
doesn't go
problem
for you
before,
guys.
We solved it somehow. I
Yeah.
forgot how. I know we had the same exact thing happen last time.
Mhm.
This is annoying as heck. Okay. hold on.
Now, if I go back to escape mode and then I go back,
There you go.
Yeah.
That works.
There you go.
you'll be able to see it here. Okay, well, we'll just go on this road here. That'll work out fine. So the point I'm making here is all the way back to 1968, Northrop basically figured out how to do this. And I personally believe they have incorporated this technology into their aerospace designs, making a lot of these black aircraft, so-called Batmobiles, that can go supersonic without a sonic boom. It's clearly what's been done here.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you do it? It makes
Right.
sense not to.
When you look,
Right.
you look at the designations that the Air Force and the Navy have given to things that we know about. Okay, you have the F-18. Where's the F-19? I know the F-20 was made by
Right.
Northrop.
Mhm.
The F-21 was the Israelis. I think they took a.
Preston, that's your mic.
Okay.
Something's going on.
Yeah, but they had the Kafir, the F-21. We know
Okay.
the F-22. We know the F-23.
Yeah.
What happened to the F-24, 25, 26, 27, 28,
Right.
29, 30, 31, 32 from Boeing, 33, no, 34, no, F-35. And then we go from F-35 to F-47.
Right.
Maybe the
Yeah.
most
Where'd all the words in between that go? Yeah.
Well, I recall Peter Merling saying that there are twice as many X-planes as being reported.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yep.
Can you repeat
And-
that? You blipped out there for a second. Can you repeat that?
Peter Merlin said that there are twice as many X-planes as being reported.
All right. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We don't hear about most of the stuff.
So when you hear about an X-33, we're already at X-66, you know.
But yeah, the X-33 was the aerospace plane, I think it was.
Yep.
They called it China. Was it the Orient Express from San Francisco to Tokyo in what, hour and a half? Or something like
The
that?
X-33 was the single stage to orbit coffee drop, right?
Yeah.
The triangular coffee drop, cough drop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So in this slide, you've got the wind tunnel tests, and it's just demonstrating these electrostatic fields that they're applying to. If I go to the next slide here, using charged plasma fields and electroaerodynamics, the F-22, F-35, B-2, and B-21 could achieve supersonic flight without causing a sonic boom. I think it's a done deal. I really do.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I've had people who know
Okay.
tell me that the F-35, even though a lot of people don't like it, it has some incredible capabilities
Mhm.
that no one really, no one, outside of that sort of a closed community knows, really what it can do.
Okay.
And
Which is what?
they didn't tell me.
Okay.
Mach 5. That's why they
Yeah.
They don't want you to know that they're going higher Mach. That's why. And if you see one, you really don't see it because it's so fast and you don't hear the normal sounds coming out of it. It's like you sort of hear something way coming at you, but then going past you, you don't hear it anymore. It's just gone. And that's what's weird about it,
Yeah, they said it's an information gathering node. That's how it was described to me.
Mhm.
As it flies over an area, it is literally sucking up every electronic signature
Yep.
that can be found for mile. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about mega miles around. So it's almost the equivalent of an AWACS type of airplane
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
its capabilities. And the
Yeah.
other, the other thing, there was an announcement today. Yeah, I think it was yesterday in the if it were one of the publications, saying that the Air Force is now flying an enhanced version of the F-22.
I heard that.
There was a picture of finding with the 757 test bed, and there's two of them. And apparently the modifications and the upgrades to it are mind-boggling.
Really?
And Lockheed, there was questions, why didn't Lockheed protest Boeing getting the F-47?
Right.
Well, they're proposing a super F-35 as a complement to the F-47. I don't know if they're going to stretch it or whatever. Or
A super F-22?
a super F-35,
Okay.
and they have the super F-22, which is flying right now.
Okay.
There's at least two of them
Huh.
that have been modified. I mean, it's a beautiful airplane. I mean, Ben Rich told me if an airplane looks pretty on the ground, it's going to fly beautifully in the air. The only exception to that is the F-117.
Mhm.
And the funny thing about it, when they first announced its existence, one of the guys who worked on it was a friend of mine. He worked on it at Area 51. The big joke was that it's such an ugly airplane that they have to put electrodes on the wingtips to charge it up to get the frogs off. So,
Okay.
That's funny.
yeah.
Switching gears here. Jim, you want to
Oh,
comment
wanna
on the
cry.
P-38s that were scrapped?
I want to cry. So,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's sickening.
yeah, and why did they? I mean, they flew Convair B-32 Dominator bombers, 4-engine bomber. I think they only built less than 50 of them, maybe less than that. There's no examples were saved, and as they were coming off the assembly line, they flew straight from the production facility in Fort Worth to the boneyard to be scrapped, either
That's
here or up in
insane.
Kingman or somewhere. I mean,
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
yeah, we're talking about less than 10 hours on the airframe
Mhm.
and being chopped up. And it's just, they could have been utilized for something. Give them to our friends.
Yeah.
So, well, the $1 million question is why?
It's probably the same reason why I think it was Stuart Simonton, but I can't say for sure. But when they wanted the administration back in the 50s wanted Northrop to merge with General Dynamics.
Okay.
And General Dynamics was a Convair, was building the B-36, and of course they had the flying wing, the YB-35 and the XB-35 and the YB-47, and he became such a petty person when Jack Northrop says, "I'm not turning my company over to somebody else who's going to turn it into a piece of crap." And so again, I think it was Stuart Simonton said, "Okay, you'll never get another contract for the United States military ever again, as far as I'm concerned." So the day shift was working on. They had 13 airframes. They had 3 or 4 of them were flyable, and most of them were being worked on outside. They had some in hangars, but they were all.
Could this be a bait and switch kind of a thing, where they wanted you to notice these being made when they were doing something else? I mean, why would they do that? I mean, there's no reason to do that.
No, but they pulled them out on the ramp, and they were working on them. Day shift finished. I mean, they were all, "Hey, this is gonna be great." Swing shift came in. They gathered everybody around and said, "No one can go home tonight until every single airframe is destroyed." So they were there with bulldozers and cranes swinging your.
You know, how much does one of these things cost? Out of curiosity.
I mean, in U.S. dollars. I mean, in 2025 dollars, you're probably talking $100 million.
Oh, 100 million! Oh my God.
Or higher. I mean, this was the leading edge technology. They were tailless airplanes, the flying wing. And when day shift came back the next day, they were devastated. They were all laid off. I mean, the program was over. Adios.
Almost criminal. I mean,
it just shows you with some petty, sniveling little POS, vindictive guy who had the power to destroy something like that. That can't be justified, no matter how you.
They're not still sitting out in the open like that. They kind of break them up and bury them, don't they?
Well, today they do that, but there they just broke them up, cut them up, and shipped it off to scrapyard. Yeah, so
that hurts. I mean,
but it's what they do. It's what they do, and it just you look at this, and it just. And a P-38, no less. Why would you? I know. And actually, in reality, the P-38 is not a Lockheed design. It's a Douglas design.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, the guy responsible for most of the P-38 design worked for Douglas Aircraft Company. And but I still see it as a Skunk Works.
Sure, everybody does.
Billy Johnson airplane. So and it was state of the art at the time. But it was an airplane. My boss, General Schwab, he became an ace. He had 4. He didn't get 5. He shot down 4 Me-262s in combat. Not that he was shooting at them. The Me-262 flew through the guy's rounds. He was just shooting at something else. But he got credit for the aerial victory. One of my other bosses, Major General Wayne Gatlin, was 2.5 kills. Again, Me-262. So
I have a question.
Germany. Yeah.
So this was 2017, right?
No, this is back during the close of World War II, immediately after World War II. These craft were scrapped.
So interestingly, I'm thinking, what came after this exactly?
After the P-38?
Yeah.
The jets started taking over from that point.
You had the P-80.
Yep.
Which was the first operational jet.
They had a jump in technology is what happened, and they thought these would become obsolete, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have any means to ship all these planes back to the States. It was going to cost too much, so they just scrapped them.
Oh my God.
Well, when the Blackbird program came to an end, Larry Welsh, who was responsible for the Blackbird's demise, he was the deputy chief of staff, Air Force chief of staff under Jerry O'Malley. And at one time when I think he was a very young major. I'm talking about, my mind just went back. What did I just say? The
Blackbird?
Yeah.
No, the guy who
Malley?
Welsh.
Welsh.
He put his name in the hat to fly the Blackbird when he was a young major, and he was turned down because he's not a very good pilot, and he hated the program from that point forward. And when Jerry O'Malley was killed in a CT-39 crash, he became Air Force chief of staff, and his first order of business was to kill the Blackbird program.
Ooh.
And he was very successful at it. He and I can't remember the other. That was General John Chain, was the other person, and I think he was the commander of SAC at the time, and he was in the same mindset, because they were both getting ready to retire, and they had positions at TRW and their satellite division. So these guys, as far as I'm concerned, committed treason. But they contacted Ben Rich, and this came directly from Ben Rich to me, and told him that I want a cost estimate of what it will be to chop up. They had 30 Blackbird airframes. 3 of them were going to be designated, 1 for the Smithsonian, 2 for the Air Force Museum. That would be the A-12, the YF-12 and the SR-71. And he wanted the other 27 airframes destroyed. So Ben Rich did some figuring and sent a message back to General Welsh. The cost to dismantle and destroy a Blackbird at Palmdale or at Beale would cost a minimum estimate of $67 million an airframe.
Mm-hmm.
Almost as much as it costs to build it and design it. And the reason why, there's about 4,000 pounds of silica asbestos. It's all encapsulated. That's why you can go to a museum with a Blackbird today, but it was up to General Welsh, that POS. There wasn't going to be but 3 instead of the 30 that are around the country today. And how in the heck that Alabama has 3 A-12s, 2 operational ones that were actually operational, and a third one, and that just irks the hell out of me.
Is that at Montgomery?
Montgomery, at Birmingham, and Mobile.
Wow.
Yeah. They should give an A-12 back to the Minnesota Air Guard Museum, but that will never happen. So, all right, let's continue.
Okay. So I thought we would go a little bit over Edgar Fouché and his TR-3B revelations. So this is kind of getting into his material here.
Look at
And he
that.
talks about this magnetic field disruptor being the base system for the propulsion system. So the plasma in the accelerator is mercury based and is pressurized to 250,000 psi at a temperature of 150 degrees Kelvin and accelerated to 60,000 RPM to create a superconductive plasma with the resulting gravity energy. The TR-3B utilizes one multi-mode thruster mounted on each corner. This is all according to Edgar Fouché.
Yep.
Continuing on here. The MFD, magnetic field disruptor, generates a magnetic vortex field which disrupts and neutralizes the effects of gravity on mass within proximity by up to 89%. With the vehicle's mass reduced by 89%, it can travel at speeds up to Mach 9 vertically or horizontally.
Right.
Jim, any comment on these black triangles?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to quote my favorite Skunk Works guy and a friend of mine, no longer with us, unfortunately, Mr. Ben Rich.
Mhm.
Just before Ben passed away, he was at USC Medical Center in LA. He was dying of esophageal cancer. He had the misfortune of inhaling some of the fumes of the solvents used in low observable coatings. And a buddy of mine who was one of the first enlisted guys on the 117 program said, everybody he knows who worked on that airplane all have cancer. Worked on them, not necessarily flown, but worked on them. And it's mostly found in cancer polyps in their intestines. He said he's had 14 or 15 polyps removed since he retired from the Air Force. And it's just a nasty stuff. But Ben was dying of esophageal cancer. He's at USC Medical Center, and I called him up. I just received his book. I think I'm the last person to get a book from Ben Rich, and he signed it. To the proud crew chief of number 128, personal kindness regards, Ben R. Rich. He was just a super guy. But he told me, he said, and we were talking about our friend John Andrews and other stuff, and things that go bump in the night. And near the end of our talk, which was about 45 minutes, he said, Jim said, we have things out in the desert, and he was not referring to Area 51. S4 maybe some other locations, Dugway. Said, we have things out in the desert that's 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. Now he knows he knows my mind can comprehend a hell of a lot. And he said, and if you've seen movies like Star Trek or Star Wars, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. And I said, Ben, you want to expand upon that? And true to himself, Ben Rich, he said, nope. And he died 10 days later. And I had originally set up, and Michael has the documentation to prove that Ben had agreed after his book with Leo Janos was published that he would sit down with me for a no holds barred clock with a sweep hand behind him, so you can see if there's been any cuts, any editing. And he was going to answer every question that I could throw at him. And the man died on me. And that's just, I just broke my heart, because that was going to be something that was really incredible.
Michael.
Yeah.
Do you think the TR-3B has evolved?
I think so. Yeah. The fact that they've been pouring in black budget funding for decades on these classified black budget programs, I definitely think they've advanced it. Absolutely.
I because what I did, what I want to do in the future, I have seen these things, and they've changed them somewhat, and I've noticed technology amping on them. It's not the right technology that ET Craft are using. It's not the same thing. It's close, but not quite. But they've reconfigured them to the point that when you do see them, it's like, okay, they're amping with this. They're actually making them, I can see an evolution in them going on just by what they look like. Their lights have changed somewhat.
Well, Dolly, from your experience, would you say that this is then directly inspired by ET tech?
Yes.
I wouldn't say necessarily ET tech, because if you go back to the ancient Vimana text of Sanskrit, 2,000 years prior to, they talk about a liquid mercury vortex engine, almost identical to the TR3.
Right.
Oh, wow.
But that's an iteration like here. That's more than 12,000 years ago. And they were getting to that point just before all hell broke loose on them as well. Mm-hmm. What I am seeing changes is that ET uses light technology. In other words, it's electromagnetic, but it's amped electricity it becomes a graviton wave. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they can manage a graviton wave expressly. Ask Lazar, he saw him. He really did. When I heard him talk, I went, oh yeah, he knows. This is not the same thing. They don't need to be cooled the way these do. They don't need to be allowed to heat up the way these do. But I'm seeing changes in them now where they're starting to make the connections, because they've been working with light technology a lot more in these things, and I'm starting to see it in the way that they look on the outside. They're developing skins that can change colors and produce new lights, new configurations. They're not as hot as they used to be when I saw them at first. These boogers, the TR3B, lit up on us like you wouldn't believe. We knew where you were. There was no doubt on our mind. Well, there it is. Now they're becoming more and more stealthy. And
do these TR3Bs carry people?
Absolutely.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
How many?
Mm-hmm. Well, they have two different sizes. They have a 300 feet per side and a 600 feet per side.
Yeah.
So conceivably,
3 to 9 people. 3 to 9, maybe 12 if you're pushing it. That's right.
Yeah. Well, you were mentioning that the technology was saying was 12,000 years old.
Yeah.
Some of you, I know Michael's aware of it, but in 23 and part of 24, I was tramping around the jungles of Belize.
Okay.
And dealing with some Mayan pyramids that we were hoping to excavate, and that all fell apart because the guy headed it up. Was impressed with himself, and of course he screwed everything up. But when the conversation I was having with the geologists there in Belize, and these are at all the historic sites that have been excavated, or at least partially excavated on the top, they have guides. You just you can walk in there by yourself, but there's usually a guide that goes with you. And they're all grad students, either working on their master's or their PhD in archaeology. And I talked to 3 or 4 different ones at 2 different sites in southern Belize, and they said it's now we've come to the position that the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the Incas did not build their pyramids, and they did not build everything at Machu Picchu, because we're now realizing that the pyramids, at least in Belize, are 20 to 200,000 years old.
They're very, very old. That's right.
Incredible.
Yeah, if you know anything about physics, I can give you in a nutshell what's wrong with your dating systems. Okay, carbon dating is influenced by the sun shooting off energy at you, or other things coming from outer space coming into us through our magnetosphere. And radiation has half-life, and it can degrade rapidly if it's being sunk up by another form of radiation to hit it. And if you've got ETs flying around all over the place, that can affect it as well. It's carbon dating, then the isotopes and all this other kind of newfangled stuff that they've got to date things, it's still off by hundreds of thousands of years. That's exactly right. There's no way for you to know the truth about it. None.
There's got to be a way to accurately date things. We just haven't discovered it, perhaps.
No, they got information. They're just not telling you the truth about it.
You look for use before date. It's somewhere in the bottom.
Listen, there's plenty of writings out there that have actual, they can triangulate a date.
It was known by the Caesars of Rome that when they got to Cairo and they asked the Egyptian people, they said that we didn't build these. They were here when we got here.
Yep, that's right.
Going back to the TR3B, is there a reason it's a triangle as opposed to perhaps disc-shaped?
Very good question. Well, when you talk about the magnetic field disruptor, I guess the reason why it's a triangle is because Edgar talks about the multi-mode impulse rockets, one in each corner. So that would define the configuration.
Right.
Mhm.
It's sort of like, you know what the proton looks like at the center of it, that energy, that electrical energy between the nodes of a proton. There's 3 in every proton. And that's the same. That's
interesting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, look at one, man. Look it up.
Well, don't people describe like big rectangular flying craft as well that are ours?
There's platforms now. Yes, platforms are kind of in vogue now as well. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Boy,
Now,
there's
before we get into this one, Jim, do you want to comment on runway length and hypersonic aircraft?
Well, the runway, the long one you see sort of on the right third of the image, and there's a little black thing sticking past it. That runway, that was the old runway, which if you look close, you can see the yellow X on the runway.
Yeah.
They quit using it and they built another 14,000-foot runway. But this runway was 27,000 feet. And I asked my buddy, who was a flight testing director at the Skunk Works, and he spent 10 full years at Area 51 at various projects, all of them I'm aware of. He said, well, we have if an airplane takes 9,000 feet to take off, if you have to abort just as you're ready to lift off, it takes twice the distance. So whatever, which is Aurora, whichever the craft was that was taken off on that runway, it was heavy and it was huge.
Okay.
And that's what the speculation of the big hangar that they built. I think it's hangar 18. And that one, if I had a picture, trying to see if I can see it.
Mhm.
My eyes aren't going to work today. So, but so someone said, well, why is it the hangar 18, the big one they built? Of course, they built other bigger ones since, but it wasn't a flat roof. It was a peaked roof. There's no reason to build a peaked roof type structure with the type of technology we have today. And my friend, the late Bill Fox, said it was a mate-demate facility. So I think that's where the mother airplane for Aurora was, and then they would mate Aurora on top. Michael has a version of it dropping from the bottom. They found out that launching on top of a high-speed airplane, there's problems involved. That's what caused the mid-air collision with the MD-21 and the drone. And the funny thing about that, they had launched 3D 21s from the M21. And the drones launched successfully, but they were in a 0.9 G arc to help with the separation. And there's only like 6 inches of clearance as the drone goes in between the
tails.
And Kelly had Bill Park in the office, and Kelly was a yes or no guy.
Yeah.
And he asked Bill Park, he said, okay, you've launched 3 birds, maintaining a 0.9 G flight profile. In your opinion, do you think a line Air Force pilot flying this airplane in a combat environment can maintain a 0.9 G arc to help for separation? And Bill starts going in this long dissertation, and Kelly said, stop. I want a yes or no answer. So Bill, and this is I interviewed Bill Park just before he passed away. And Bill said, he's thinking, he's going back and forth, this and that. And he said, finally, after about 2 minutes, almost dead silence as he's trying to figure out the pros and cons of the question, Bill Park said no.
That's right.
So
protection around them.
Yeah. So Kelly says, okay, on the next launch on July 30th, 1966, I want you to launch the drone at 1 G, straight and level. So they got up to altitude. They were at, I think, 79,000 feet at 3.1. And the drone launches. And all of a sudden, Bill Park notices the airframe was pitching up. So he figured it was a shift in the aft center of gravity. I'm going to give some forward stick. But he said when things started going back by him this way, he knew that wasn't a good sign.
Right.
So they rode the fuselage down from effectively 80,000 feet to about 65,000 feet, tumbling and twirling. Park said that they experienced up to 7 Gs positive, down to 7 Gs negative.
Wow.
As this thing's spinning and tumbling.
Were they
Finally,
conscious?
and he said his policy has always been, and he almost became a Skunk Works ace. He crashed 4 Skunk Works airplanes. Half Blue, the XF-104, the M21, and an A-12. One more, he'd have been an ace. But he said, I always decided my policy was always to stay in the cockpit until it was no longer safe in the cockpit.
Oh, wow.
So as he was tumbling and twirling, he was trying to figure out what the hell happened. He realized, and it was the only time they had the other M21 up there. Jack Reed was the launch control officer in that airplane, and I can't remember Russ's last name. He was the launch control officer. He was the pilot, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's videotaped. It's 16 millimeter, and you can see the drone go up, and then you see it and come down and hits and breaks right at the 715 splice. And it was a crime. But when Bill ejected, he saw Ray Torek. He ejected as well. So when they had the briefing in the morning, they said the ceiling was about 5,000 feet. It's 200 miles off the coast of California, in the Pacific Missile Range.
Yeah.
And he ejected, and he's in the seat, and he knows Lockheed told him that the seat separation will happen automatically at 15,000 feet. And I asked him, why 15,000 feet? That's still a long way to go, and it's cold up there. And he said, well, the highest point between Area 51 and where they were flying is Mount Whitney, which is 14,400 and some odd feet. So Murphy's Law says that if you were to have to bail out in a situation, worst case, you would be over Mount Whitney. So they wanted to make sure they had at least 500 feet of elevation to make sure that the chute opened. And he, when he hit this, and as he's falling, the first thing that happens when you leave the airplane, the faceplate heater is external to the seat.
Yeah.
So the first thing that happens, the faceplate thrusts up. You can't see.
Right.
And he's there. And Bill Weaver said the same thing when he was thrown out of 953 when it disintegrated on him a couple of years later. And Bill Park said, Lockheed promised me the main chute would open up at 15,000 feet. He said he must have said that 1,000 times. Bill Weaver said the same thing. He must have said it 1,000 times. And at 15,000 feet, the altimeter in the seat cuts the belts, pushes you out, main chute opens up, and you're fine. And the thing about the ejection seat on the Blackbirds, when you eject, it's good to Mach 4 to 125,000 feet. Mm-hmm. But when you eject out of the airplane, say you're flying at Mach 3.2, 2150, first thing that opens up is an 18-inch drag chute. You eject and it puts your butt into the airstream. Now, indicated airspeed at 85,000 feet is about 375 knots. So it's like sticking your hand out the window at 300 miles an hour, not 2,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then once you start going down, that's cut, and a 6-foot chute opens up because they don't want you to go supersonic on your way down because you'll rip the main chute if you do. Mm-hmm. It won't end up well. And so he's sitting in his seat, and finally, when he's pushed out, he opens up his visor, and he sees the clouds, and he said, "Okay, once I go through the cloud deck, I have 5,000 feet before I hit the water." Now the water was 10-foot seas, and the ceiling had gone from 5,000 feet to sea level. Mm-hmm. So he's all prepared. He's released his. He's inflated his Mae West, and he's released his dinghy. It was part of the seat. As he comes through, as soon as he comes through the clouds, he's in the water, and he goes down and pops up, and his hands are frozen. So one of the things that drove him crazy when he was trying to inflate his Mae West, it was a D ring at once. They made it a T handle or vice versa.
Yeah,
couldn't feel it, and it was underneath his harness, and it was really hard to inflate. So he got it inflated. You know, he goes through the clouds, he pops down, he gets back up. He's trying to get into his one-man life raft, and he only has about 2 inches of freeboard as water's splashing into his faceplate. He can't close it. He's out of oxygen.
yeah.
So he's trying to pull himself into the life raft, and he's just getting exhausted, and he can't get in, and water is splashing into his face. I mean, we're talking about 10-foot seas. And all of a sudden he realizes he has water around his calf in his suit.
Ooh.
So he knew if he didn't get into that life raft, that he was a goner.
Yeah.
No, he would. His life preserver would, and he's attached to his life raft, so he'd be down 25 feet. The life raft will maintain possession of the body. He said from the tips of his toenails to the end of his hair follicles, every ounce of energy he had, and he screamed. And you could probably hear it in Ventura when he screamed and pulled himself in. Ray Torek, when he ejected, he broke his arm on a camera bracket in the back seat, and they had warned a couple guys. I think Jack Reed had told Kelly that if a backseat or if a launch control officer has to eject, there's a very good chance he could break one of his arms because of the camera bracket. And so he ejected successfully. He made it out of the airplane successfully. The main chute opened up as he pushed him out of the seat, and he hit the water. And with a broken arm, he couldn't get into the life raft. And before he was the launch control officer for the Skunk Works, he was a UDT in the Navy, underwater demolition team. Figured if anybody could survive a water landing, it would be Ray, but he didn't. And Kelly Johnson canceled the MD program right then and there. It says, I lost one flight test guy. I'm not going to lose another one.
Yep.
So that's when they decided they were going to change the launch profile from being on top of a Blackbird, the M21, to launching off a B-52H. And they had 4 operational launches off of B-52s over China. First one never came back. It kept going and crashed west of the Urals. And when Ben Rich retired from the Skunk Works, he was finally allowed to go visit his counterparts at Nicoya, Sukhoi, and Illusion. And while he was there, and I said it was probably Putin because he was a KGB, presented Ben a hand-carved box with the data plate, and I'll show you what.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man.
Do you know how much training goes into these pilots? How many millions of dollars goes into their training?
Yeah, a lot.
And you hear about, oh, this plane was millions of dollars. And first thing that goes through my mind is, talk about the pilot instead. Why don't you? Okay.
Yeah. There's the data. That's the data plate I have.
Yeah.
Off the Marquardt motor.
Yeah.
And that was given to Ben. Michael, did you ever see that when you were going through some of the stuff?
Nope.
Yeah, that's probably in the Skunk Works archive somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was just a real significant piece of history that you had in his hand.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Jim, on this slide, there's hangar 4, 3, 5, and 2. Are those the original CIA U-2 hangars?
No, those are the ones that.
Was that the A-12 hangars?
Those are the A-12 hangars, and the U-2 hangars are right below it. I think it's number 6.
Okay.
There's 3 of them, I think, and the U-2 hangars have been designated National Historic Building.
Okay, cool.
So they can't tear them down.
Oh, good.
Great.
Where there's a will, there's a way. You know.
Yeah. So on this slide, I asked Edgar Fouché to draw me an illustration of what he saw, and this is what he came up with. So what you see here is Engineering Avionics Building 9, and he was walking to the blue-colored bus, and he said that he was wearing foggles, and the foggles had a little bit of a crack to them, so you could kind of see off to the left. But when you wear these things, you can't see anything beyond 10 feet. Well, somehow there was a little bit of a gap here, and he looked up, and then what's the distance between that avionics building and that triangular craft above? Are you talking about 500 feet, Jim?
Oh, yeah, it probably at
gauge
least,
that?
yeah.
About 500 feet.
Now,
Yeah.
wait, what are foggles? Like blindfolds?
Foggles are like goggles, but they have like a fog to them, so you can't see anything beyond 10 feet.
Right. It stops you from
Wow.
seeing things above your grade, you know. Your
That's
That's
right.
diabolical. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
So he said he saw this triangular craft on pads on a tarmac. This is what he drew for me, because I asked him, like, give me an illustration. What did you see? I'm going to do a blow up here on the next slide. And now you can kind of see what he saw. This is according to Edgar Fouché.
Wow.
He saw the smaller 300 feet per side craft. Then I thought we would go into this Barnsley, England case, just making supporting evidence for these black triangles. August 25th, 1990. I got this from David Marler, and this was a retired police officer. He went to a Fleetwood Mac concert. The concert finished. He was with his wife. She was sleeping in the passenger side. And so they're going home. And he said, out from this black cloud comes this black triangle. It had a white light at each corner. There was an indented section in the center with another light. I'm going to go to the technical drawing here.
Yep. There it is.
He said it had crossbeam and girder construction on the inside wall of this indented section. And then he said that there were human-like figures looking out of these windows. He basically said that they were not alien, they were humans, they absolutely were, leading him to believe that this was a man-made military project. This is his assessment.
Well, that looks like it could hold a lot more than 6 people.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Oh, certainly. So let's go to his testimony here. This is the police officer. The side of the craft appeared to have several illuminated windows, and I saw 2 to 3 figures that appeared to be human. Certainly nothing about the figures made me think they were anything other than human, reinforcing my belief that the craft was a military project. So his assessment is that this is one of ours.
Good for him.
Yep.
And what year was that?
This is back in 1990, Barnsley, England.
Yep.
Ooh, that's a while back.
Yep, it's a while back. So I decided to do a cardstock model of this. And this is my cardstock model showing you the indented section. I've got the crossbeam and girder construction. I've got the windows. I've got the lighted sections. This is a top view looking down. Then we wanted to do a full color rendering. So this is our full color rendering by Joseph Wraith. And you can imagine this thing flying across at treetop level with these people looking outside these large windows. Here's a blow up of the crossbeam and girder construction. And then one more with these crew members here. So it's happening. They're real. They've been seen in England. They've been seen in the U.S. They've been seen all around the world.
Well, here's a question that's impossible to answer, but I'm so curious. How many do you think that we have of these things?
I would say dozens. If you count UK and US together, I would say dozens. I wouldn't say hundreds, but I'd say dozens.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Now, just to support that, we have to go to the testimony of Officer Craig Stevens. This is the January 5th Southern Illinois Triangle. This is Republic Times, January 12, 2000. UFO baffles observers. What is shaped like an arrowhead as big as a football field, 2 stories tall, and flies slowly through the air? If you don't know, don't feel bad. People across Metro East saw an object fitting that description floating slowly overhead early last Wednesday morning, and no one yet has been able to explain what it was. And so here is his original sketch. And Collinsville Journal, January 16, 2000. Object in sky draws interest of UFO researchers. And then it says, officer says he is 98% sure object was experimental or military. So even he states that what he saw was a military project. Yep. So here is the technical drawing. And basically what he's stating here as this craft was using star field camouflage. To allow it to blend in with the background here. So the craft tried to camouflage itself against the night sky and was projecting the star field above it on the underside. So they're using these electrochromic panels to take a electrical image of what's above the craft and then transfer it to the bottom, allowing it to blend in with the background.
Yeah. In 2003, 2006, I personally saw a couple of these. Honestly, the first one I saw freaked me out because it was level with my eyesight. It was, straight level with my eyesight. I was only seeing the side of it coming, and it looks like a wall of stadium lights coming at you.
Sure.
And when it realized that there was somebody outside, and I was, had the vehicle on and everything, it turned them out. And as it came over, every hair on my body stood straight up because it was really, really low. And then I saw the star field. That's exactly what you're describing. And I went, oh, this is interesting. Look at that. I know it's there. I can feel it. But I was only looking at the sky. That's it.
The Air Force has been talking about active camouflage since the 50s.
Yeah.
Where there's sensors on top, which will change the color of the bottom to match the color on top and vice versa.
Yeah. I will tell you that's directly related to back engineering technology that they put.
This is the one that went right over Scott Air Force Base, I think.
That's correct. January 5th, 2000. So I asked Rudy to do a drawing of Officer Craig Stevens outside of his police car, taking a Polaroid photograph of the triangular arrowhead craft above him with the constellation of Orion on the bottom of the craft, allowing it to blend in with the background. And here's what we came up with. So you've got these constellations.
Yep.
And did you have an opportunity to see the Polaroid?
Yeah, it's been released, and it's a very blurry image. It doesn't have any definition to it. Yeah, it's definitely been released. And here's our full color version right here.
That would be it.
So, I mean, it's a done deal. They've got the technology. Popular Science did a whole article on this electrochromic panels that are used on these aircraft. So it's certainly a technology that's been in the works for decades at this point.
Wow. Well, we have 5 minutes left.
Yep.
I hope you guys can come back.
We have to do another one of these.
Yeah. Soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon.
And I'm all for it. It all depends on my schedule.
I'm for it. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to join you guys.
Perfect.
Well, all right. Well, we have time for another slide, I guess, or a little bit more.
Okay. Well, we'll do the world exclusive here, right?
Okay.
So,
thank you.
As we're going through these TR3B descriptions by Edgar Fouché, and we've got some basic idea. We know what the craft looks like. We know what the configuration is. I thought, let's see if we can do a really good full color rendering. And so here is our full color rendering inside one of the hangars at the test site.
I love it. I love the fact that you got the blue, the white, and the red lights on it, because they do have blue lights on them too, and white and red. That is amazing. That's damn amazing.
That's beautiful. Actually.
That is. I'm impressed, actually. Wow.
It must be a thrill to fly one of these things.
45-degree look down angle.
Is it dangerous for the pilots in terms of radiation?
No, because they're only feeling 11% of the G's.
That's right.
All right. But no, I mean in terms of radiation or
no, I think they figured all that out. As far as shielding, and it's debatable whether these things do produce a radiation type signature. Here's our other view here, getting ready for a test flight.
Yeah.
And then we'll do one more at eye level. So there's our eye level, and you can see that they do not have landing gear. They have T-pads. They're called T-pads.
That's great. That's great. Those are three incredible illustrations.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Credit goes to Joseph Wraith. I mean, we spent a month on just these three alone. We spent a month putting this together.
Michael, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad that you're doing this. I've been saying TR3Bs to people for a long time. And people look at me like, you're a little crazy. That's just, nah. I love this. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. A lot of these witnesses, they describe what you talk about, like a static electrical field where the hair on your arm sticks up, a direct derivative of this technology.
Yep. Trust me, I had long hair then, and I had it down, and it was literally trying to stick straight up. Okay, every hair on my body, just all of it. And it creeped me completely out. And I'm looking up and I know it's there, but all I see is a bloody star pattern. And it's funny you said Orion, because this is down in Georgia, in South Georgia, near Alabama, in Columbus. And it was, and I saw Orion, and I'm thinking, why am I seeing Orion on the bottom of this thing? You know, it's like, it freaked me out.
There you
Do
go.
we know how fast these things can go or what their capabilities are?
Well, at least Mach 9.
Yep. 27,000 miles an hour.
At least.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the Belgium Triangle, 1989 to 1990, these things were making these amazing maneuvers, dropping down very fast, coming to an abrupt halt. They could make the F-16s look like they were going backwards. So on another level of technology.
What about altitude, or, you know, going beyond the atmosphere?
80,000 feet down to 4,000 feet in a matter of a second.
Yeah.
You know,
they have the ability to stay outside up in space. I don't know about that. You might, Michael, but I don't think that they can do a space excursion. They can't like go to the ISS and come back. Okay. But I think that they have problems with navigation at that point. But it's they can go 80,000 feet.
Something's making regular trips to the moon and back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that one.
No. Yeah. We have a platform that's
right. They got some new stuff that's doing weird things. You're right. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's crazy. We're kind of out of time. We've got 5 minutes we can fudge, but I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's do this again. We still have how many more? Well, we're only 83 out of 172.
Sure.
Well, this may be 2 more sessions to go through the entire process.
So in a timeline, could we get you back in 3 weeks, both of you? Do you think?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We'll give you dates.
Should be able to.
Okay. All right. I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll give you definitely a couple of dates. You can choose what works for you.
Wonderful. Great.
Yeah. The only thing that I have to concern myself with, if my wife has any medical things that she has to go, she can't go by herself. I mean, she's more capable, but she has no short-term memory, so they can tell her everything.
And she come home.
And I said, what did the doctor say? I said, what doctor?
Sorry.
So I live with that every day. So
we'll work it out.
But as usual, Michael, you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be with all of you.
It's always an honor to be part of one of Michael's presentations.
Absolutely, an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
And,
absolutely.
I love
for you guys as well.
I thoroughly enjoyed last 2 times. This is my 3rd time. And we're going to at least 2 more times before we run out of just this amount of information. Oh, one thing before I let I saw it was posted on not Drudge, that one of the news, the news sites, and it says that, and this came from Tulsi Gabbard. It said President Trump is considering selecting 1,000 journalists and aviation enthusiasts for a tour of Area 51, seeing crafts, seeing bodies.
Wow.
And I sent an email to Tulsi Gabbard, and I said, okay, from a fellow Hawaiian, because I spent 4 years in Hawaii, so I'm not Hawaiian, but at least I can say, hey, I lived there. I said, I've been snooping on the government in and around Area 51 for 50 years. Please put me on the list.
Yeah, put Michael on it too. Absolutely, put Michael on it. Yeah.
But they said no cameras.
No cameras. Okay. No problem.
I have a good problem.
Yeah.
All right. Bring an artist.
Oh yeah. Bring Joel or bring your
with a photographic memory. There you go. Yeah.
Wow.
That's Bob.
Amazing, you guys. Yeah, I can't wait to have you guys back.
One quick thing. We have 8 minutes, but I got a message from Luigi, who's doing the S4 story, Bob Lazar. And last time I talked to Bob, he said he saw some of the finalized clips.
Okay.
And he got goosebumps. He said I could smell the hangar. It was so realistic.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's gonna be sometime this summer. They ran into some technical glitches. And I think they ran into some legal glitches that they had to work out. I don't know what the legal glitches would be. But according to Bob, it is a barn burner. I mean, it's going to blow your mind because and they're using 6K technology. They are, I know some are released, but they haven't said, because less than a week ago got an email from Luigi saying they haven't defined the date yet. I know at one time they were trying to get it into the Sphere at Las Vegas. The world premiere will be in Las Vegas.
Yep.
It will be in Las Vegas.
Right.
So,
all right. Well, we got to say goodbye, guys. Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, it was a fun evening. Thank you, Michael. Always good to see your smiley face.
Good to be with you.
Dolly, Preston,
Yes,
always a fun 2 hours.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Michael, for
Until
dropping.
we meet
for you.
again. Yeah.
Until we meet again. Yes. Thank you.
Sounds
very
good.
much.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Y'all
We'll see
take care. Adios.
Adios.
Talk
All
to you
right,
later.
everybody, I'm going to walk us out. Thank you for joining the Light Gate with Michael Schratt and Mr. James Goodall. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. Find us on Facebook, on Roku, on Rumble, and YouTube. Listen, there's a new book out that Michael has put out as Stephen Greer co-authored with him in it, and it's got everything in it you could possibly want to know about what he's talking about. And James is very busy too. Look them up. I know that Michael has his own little YouTube thing going on. Look for him there too. We love you all. Namaste.
It's Polly. Hi, Polly. Yeah. I can't imagine what she's going through, in Israel. Hear the sirens going.
I know we love Polly. We're gonna bring her on the show. I'm waiting for her to come back with me about exactly that. All right.
Okay.